Good morning, everybody. I can see there are people still joining us, but good morning and welcome to the Simply Rhino webinar today, brought to you along with our friends at TDM Solutions SLU. I'm Steph from Simply Rhino, and in this webinar we'll be looking at modelling some target Pavé Cufflinks using the popular jewellery plugin RhinoGold. You'll learn how, when using RhinoGold, you can model your design, create a photorealistic render, and have your design ready for manufacture in quick and a practical time frame. Our presenter today is Pedro. Pedro is the RhinoGold CAD manager at TDM Solutions SLU. If anyone's got any questions regarding anything you see during the webinar, then please type these in and send them over to us. We'll either answer as we go along, or we'll do a separate Q&A at the end if it's required. We are recording today's webinar, so it can be viewed again at your leisure, and we'll be sharing this with you very soon, also via the Simply Rhino website, plus I'll email it to every attendee. So I'll hand over now to Pedro for the presentation. Over to you, please, Pedro.
Thank you very much, Steph. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I want to thank Simply Rhino UK. It's always a pleasure to be here and have the chance to show RhinoGold 5.7. In this webinar, we will see how to make this Cufflinks model. Also, thank you for all the attendees for joining us today. So, in this model, I'm going to start under the drawing tab. As you can see here, I will start with as you can see, we have the rectangle icon, and in the submenu, we will find the polygon tool. So I will start with the curve. So this will be the first step, and you will see now in the command line, I will need to define the center of the polygon. So in this case, I'm going to start in the top view. I just define the central point in the center, as you can see, and then I just need to pick the second point to define the size. So as you can see, I'm just going to double click in the top view to make it bigger. As you can see, in here I can follow the grid to make sure I will have the measures I want. So in this case I want to use 20 millimeters. So I just follow the grid. As you can see, 10 for each side, 20 millimeter, and here I have my curve. So this will be the base to start the model, just this curve. As you can see, now in the perspective, it's just a 2D curve. And now the next step will be under the modeling tab to create my solid. So in this case, what I want is to create a solid, but of course I want with a recessed area, because I will apply a pavé then. So the idea will be under we have the modeling tab, the curve shell tool. So this tool, as you can see, when I click it will open the side panel, and we just need to click to select a curve. So when we click on the selection box, it will ask us for a closed planar curve. So I just need to click on the curve we defined it before, and now, as you can see, I can define the measures for this part. So I can use or the handles in the viewport, or the settings in the side panel, as you prefer. So the idea is to define exactly what we need. So remember that I can double click and type exactly the measures I want to use. In this case, 2 millimeter thickness. Of course, the recessed area I can define in here, also the distance. So I can remember always, I can double click and type exactly what I want to do. And of course the thickness, so the wall thickness, I can also define easily the size. So once we are done, always important, once you have everything defined in the side panel, click OK. So this way you will add the geometry to the document. So now, as you can see, we have our solid. This is a flat solid. And of course, the idea is to bend a little bit. So I want to define the shape And to do it, we will have under the Transform tab, we will have several tools that allow us to change the. In this case, I want to use the bend tool to change my model. In this case, just we have the normal bend, and I will use in this case the dynamic bend. So dynamic bend tool, once again in the side panel, you will see that I just need to select the objects to bend. So I just click on the selection box, and then I need to click on the object I want to use. So in this case, I choose my object, press enter, and you will see that I will have these arrows that will allow me to click and bend my object. So remember, if I press shift while I bend one, it will create symmetry in both axes. So I can bend my object. In this case, I will bend a little bit more. So this is the idea, something like this. So once I define my shape, once again, just click OK in the side panel to apply the changes. And at this point, I have my base ready. So the idea is to apply Pavé on this surface. Maybe I can hide this curve, so I just select my curve, the curve I've used it in the first step. I can remember I have this viewport toolbar. If I press shift, so by default is the sorry, is the display modes, but I can press shift and I will have the hide and show and lock and unlock icons, so I can hide my curve. So the idea now will be to apply a Pavé on the top surface. So we need to go to the Gems tab, and under the Gems tab we will have several tools to apply gems on our models. So the idea is to use the Pavé automatic tool. So we just click on the Pavé automatic icon, and you will see that once again I need to define on my selection box in this side panel the objects or the areas I want to create my Pavé. So once I click my selection box, I need to select the objects, in this case just this top surface. So once I select my surface, I press enter, and now at this point I just need to define all the options for the Pavé. So what I need is to define, of course, the gem size. You will see in the side panel I can define gem size, distance between gems, and of course the distance to border. We will have more options. So in the second tab, another possibility is to define different gem sizes. Maybe I can start with gems with 1.5 until gems with 1.2, and of course interval between sizes 0.1. So this means that I will start with 1.5 gems, and if there is no space, it will try to reduce the gem size to allow us to fill the surface with the Pavé. So once I define all the options for the gem sizes, I just click on preview, and now I will need to pick a point to start my Pavé. Of course, you will see in the command line I have this option, go to center, so this allows me to directly apply my Pavé on the center. As you can see, I have these curves. So this is the original position of the gem. So this will be this circles is the gems, and I can rotate to orient the direction of my Pavé. In this case, I will use this, something like this, and once I'm done, you'll just follow the command line options. I just press enter to start applying all the gems. So as you can see, it's trying to fill the surface with the gem sizes I define. I can of course manually adjust if I need anything else. Remember that any moment I can refresh to try to adapt to the positions. Also, I can try to add manually if I want. Of course, as you can see now, doesn't respect my distance to border or my distance between gems. Of course, I could, for instance, in this case, try to fill with other gem sizes. Instead of start with 1.5, I could delete and start with 1.4. And once again, I repeat the process, just start in this case with the central point. orientation, and after this I just click enter to start calculating the pavé. So now with 1.4mm gems looks better, just to fill all the surface. If there is any that is missing, we can just click on add to add another gem in here. In this case not 1.5, I want 1.4. So as you can see, the circles are red. That means that the gems are touching, so I can click on any and with the keyboard reduce the gem size. So easily I can adjust the number of gems, the gems position. As you can see, I just add these two, and I can once again click on refresh to try to adapt the gems, as you can see easily. So once I have my surface completely full of gems, so now this is the circle, just I know this will be the gems positions. So now the next step will be to apply the prongs. So the idea is to create the prongs for the setting. So you will see now I am on gems tab, and I can go to the third tab, which will be in this case the fourth, which will be the prongs. So by default the prongs are off. I can turn on. So you will see that I have automatically all the prongs between gems. Of course I can define all prongs the same size, and of course adjust all the options, diameter, depth, height, so everything I want exactly as I need. So once I'm done, I will just need to define the outside prongs. As you can see, the inside are automatically placed, and to add the outside prongs, I just need to click on add. Remember, if I am on the prongs tab, I add prongs. If I am on the gems tab, I add gems. So in this case I'm prongs, so I click on add, and you will see that I will add prongs. So the idea will be to fill this area, just the outside, with prongs. So I just click on the place I want to add my prong, in this case here, and just move on to fill the entire surface, just to finish my pavé. So as you can see, it's really easy. Don't worry if the prong is not on the exact place when you click, because you will be able to edit, to change the position and so on. So as you can see, I'm just clicking between the two gems to add the prongs. And almost ready. So okay, as you can see, this is just place the prongs to be able to make the stone setting. Okay, here we go, last one here, and ready. So once I'm done, I just press enter. Remember, any moment I can, as you can see, the blue ones are selected, the gray are not selected. Of course I can select individually the prong and move it on more than one. In this case, if I want to adjust the sizes to all, remember I need to select all. I just need to drag a window, and as you can see, when they are blue, they are selected. So it's just, for instance, I can change the height. In this case, I would choose, for instance, 0.7. And as you can see, once I have the prongs and the gems position, I just click OK. And as you can see, now I have the gems and the prongs applied to my model. Let me change to rendered display mode. So this will be the result. Let me apply, for instance, under the side panel we have RhinoGold materials. Under the metal tab I can apply, for instance, let's use 18 karat white gold. Also for the prongs, remember I can just click and drag to my object material, or select first material and then double click on my select the object and double click on the material. So as you can see, this is just to apply the materials. In this case I can apply any gem material I want, any metal I want, some samples. So once we are ready with the pavé and the gems, we just need to create, as you can see, this is still solid, so I just need to create the stone seed. So to do it, remember I have all the gems positioned, so I will create some cutters to be able to make the to remove the cutter from the base object in order to make the stone seed. So under the jewelry tab, we will find the cutter tool. So we just click on the cutter studio icon, and once again we just need to define the in this case the cutters to apply on all the gems. So selection box, and I select the gems where I want to apply the cutters. In this case the gems are grouped, so I select the entire group, enter, and you will see that in this progress bar creating all the cutters. So at this point is the default cutter. As you can see in the bottom, we will see the hole under the gem. So this is the cutting object, and in here looks good. All the cutters will be applied exactly the same size as the gems. Of course, we have all the options in case we want to customize the cutter as needed. And after this, I just click OK to apply the cutters to my document. And once I'm done with the cutters, the next step will be to make the Boolean operation in order to remove the cutters from the model. So to do it, under the modeling tab, we will see the Boolean tool. So Boolean, and in the side panel we need to choose if we want a Boolean union, or in this case I want a Boolean difference. And of course now I need to select my object. So first selection box, the base object, the object I want to keep, enter. And then the second selection box, I will define my cutter. So I select my cutters, enter again, just follow the instructions in the command line. And now I just click on the preview icon to calculate my Boolean operation. So at this point is calculating my Boolean, and it will be make the Boolean operation. Remember that we need to, in case, for instance, we have many objects, that if we need to make the Boolean operation one by one, in case one of these fails, we can repeat. So the idea is just repeat one by one, just to make sure that it will make all the Boolean operations possible. And in this case, it will tell us the red one will be the one that we will need to repeat. So what I do is just click OK, and all the other cutters have been removed. And now, when we want to remove the cutter and the Boolean operation fail, what I need to do is just we have under the Boolean submenu the shake objects tool. So these shake objects allow us to shake my cutter in order to move it randomly. In this case, as you can see, the tolerance in the command line is 0.05. So just we'll move it randomly to allow us to make the Boolean difference successfully. So I just back to the Boolean operation after the shake objects, and I select the cutter that was missing. And now once again I preview, and I click OK to apply the changes. Okay, as you can see, it's really easy. So we have, let me just hide the gems to show you the result. I select my gems and I hide it. So this is my result. I have created with the cutters all the stone seats, so this will be ready. And now what I need to do is I will just, in this case, you know that under the elements we have the findings, and I have one option that it's what I need for this model. So let me open elements in here, and you will see one of the families we have available is the findings. So I just want to select the one I want to use. In this case, I have two options for this model. I can use, for instance, the number 5, and is creating my model. So in this case, I just need to select it, adjust the position. So with the gimbal, I can drag it down, and now I can rotate also with the gimbal. So this in this case in this direction. Remember, if I press Shift, it will rotate. In this case with 180 degrees. So just to make sure, with Shift I activate the ortho, and now again move, in this case just to make sure it's touching my object if I want to make a Boolean operation. So this would be my result. As you can see, this is a really easy exercise. So we have been checking several tools, the Pavé, the prongs, the shell curve. So this is the result. I can, of course, in the end, just for instance, with the variable fillet tool to break these sharp corners, so I can easily select and say, okay, I want to apply a fillet angle with a 1 millimeter radius. So I can just select the edges I want to fillet, and I just press enter. So as you can see, this will be the result. Of course, after this I can fillet again. Remember that I can define the radius. For instance, in this case I will use 0.5 millimeters, enter, and I need to select, in this case, the top edge. So I'm trying 0.5 angle, fillet radius. So as you can see, this is the result. And of course, if I want to do it in the inside, in the bottom one, I can, for instance, 0.3 millimeters radius angle, and let me select my bottom edge. Once I select my bottom edge, I just press enter to apply my changes. Okay, so this is the idea. We have the first one ready. So the model, it's done. I can create a copy just to make the both, so just to create the pair, and I will then create a render just to be able to see the final result. So under the transform tab, I have the copy tool. So I just click the point I want to copy from, and then the point I want to copy to. Enter when done, and as you can see, I have my model ready. So now the idea will be to create the render. So I want to create a photorealistic image. To do it, maybe under the right view, I can adjust the position. Probably let me rotate this one, the position, something like this, to be in a different position. Let me remove the grid snap and make sure it will be in the position I want. Okay, so now once I'm done, as you can see, I just define the position I want to make the render. And to make it, it's also really easy. Under the render tab, you will find the render studio tool. So I just click on the render studio, and in the side panel the render studio will be loaded, so all the materials will be available to be applied to my model and to create the photorealistic image. So in this case, I will use white gold. You will see that I have polish, sandblast, emerald. I can choose any of these, and even inside of each one, I will have the possibility to define different tones. So I have the lighter, the darker, and all in between. So in this case, I'm going to use the default one. So just as always, drag and drop, or first select the materials and then the objects, and then double click on the object. And also you can click on the middle mouse button and select by object properties, in this case for the prongs as well. And then for the gems, I will select all the gems. Remember, all this selection box, I can click just on the mouse wheel and it will show me, so I can select by object type. In this case, I select the gems. And to apply gems, as you can see in the side panel from the render studio, I have the gems material. Remember that we have all the standard gem materials, and I can, in this case, with a diamond, for instance. Of course, I could apply different gems as needed. In this case, I will use all the same. So I define the position. Remember that we will also have not only metal and gems, but a huge library of materials, so enamel, velvet, so we can really apply different materials from the library. And finally, the last tab from this side panel is the ground. So we can apply without ground. As you can see, remember, we have the option in here, the transparent ground, but also we can apply many different grounds. So in this case, maybe the black reflex, it's a good options. It will be automatically applied. And now, once I am done, I can, let me go back to perspective. I can, after the materials, I can go to the second tab, and in here I have the render option. So as you can see, I can define different resolutions. So we have here some default options, but of course you can add your own. All these resolutions, I can, in this case, I'm going to do 800 by 600. Also the environment, this will affect the lights, the reflections on the model. And of course, in the end, we have the quality. So this will be, we can define the number of passes. Of course, as we define more passes, more quality will be. We can define it by time. Of course, if we leave it more time rendering, it will be better quality. But I can also define, as I have in here, unlimited, and stop where I need, when I think it's okay, the render. So once I have everything defined, I just click on the render icon, and in here I will be able to start calculating, in this case, my render. So as you can see in the bottom part, the passes are moving on. So I would say that usually maybe 200, 300 passes will be more than enough. So as you can see, I have the timing here at this point, 25 seconds rendering. I think a little bit more will be okay. So let's wait a little bit more. As you can see, it's still calculating. The ground is still with several noise. So we have the image being cleaned with all these passes. And the idea is, as I said before, maybe just 200, 300 passes. I think it will be okay. So this is the result. I'll just wait a little bit more. As you can see, I'm spending 1 minute rendering time so far. I will probably spend 2 minutes maximum to have the result I want. And now, when I think I'm done, so any point I can stop my render. Of course, if I leave it rendering, it will be still improving the render, but when I think I'm done at this point, 1 minute and 30 seconds render. So 250 passes, I think the result looks good. So I just stop in here the render. And as you can see, now I have this small image editor, which I can, of course, adjust a little bit the brightness, the contrast from the image. I can have some filters as well, and also I can add my own logo. So just click on the folder if you want to add your own company logo. So this is just a small image editor. Once we are done, we just save our image. In this case, I can choose the file format, and of course I can choose the location, and I can in this case define as my render for the file name and save it. So easily we create our render. Let me show you in here the image is this one. So this is the result, and as you can see, this is really, I think this is really easy. It's a good exercise for RhinoGold. Let me now close the render, go back to my design file. So at this point is still closing it, and now this is the result. So as you can see, was easy, this exercise. I think it's a good exercise for beginners. Not only, I think these tools are really useful. And from here I'm done. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Pedro.
And Steph, thank you very much.
It was brilliant.
My pleasure.
So swift and beautifully done, as always. Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions so far from anyone, but if anyone has got any to follow on from, then please drop us a line, and either myself or Pedro can get back to you following this. So I would just like to say thank you to everyone who joined us today, and of course the biggest thank you to you, Pedro, for that, you and your team at TDM. That's great. So we'll be back.
Thank you.
Our next webinar, I believe, is Wednesday, May the 11th, when you'll be hearing from Pedro and myself again, 11 a.m. UK time, and we're going to be doing a Celtic-style knotted ring, and you can register for that if you haven't already via the Simply Rhino website. And until then, we'll send a recording out very soon and a follow-up to this, but hopefully we'll see some of you on May the 11th. So goodbye to everybody, and thanks again to you, Pedro.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.